You've seen the work we put in and day out, challenging myths, debunking old wives' tales, and exposing poor breeding practices. Ugh. We spent years researching, studying, and applying real-world experiences to perfect the art of science of breeding. Why? Because you deserve the best, most accurate information out there. But to keep this mission alive and growing, we need your support. If you found value in the Bred to Perfection live show, take a moment, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share our content. It may seem small, but every like, every subscriber, and every share helps us reach more breeders who need to hear the truth, who want to learn what it really takes to create, maintain, and improve high-quality strains. This isn't just a YouTube channel, it's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. If you believe in what we're doing, if you want to help others discover the power of true breeding, help push this channel to the top. Like, subscribe, and share. Together, we make a difference. Thank you for standing with us. Now, let's get to work. This show is brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family or strain, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl. Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders Academy. I'm here with Brian Reeder, and we have no idea what we're going to do, but happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So this is going to be a really interesting show. This is so funny because we usually have Thanksgiving with my sister and at my sister's house with the family. And we for some reason, I don't want to say why, but we couldn't do it today. I mean, this year. So we were going to get out of town and go to Knoxbury Farm or something and just kind of spend the day. Then we started getting reports that it's going to be filled because Disneyland is blocking people and they're all going over there. So we're sitting here in my den thinking about what to do. And I guess we're not going anywhere. And then Brian sends me a message, says, "Hey, you guys want to do a show tomorrow?" We're like, okay, what the heck, So this was not planned, I'm telling you. But welcome, Brian.
We have no script. Glad to be here. We are unscripted and unchained.
Yeah. So if you guys eating too much turkey and you're feeling a little lazy, there's nothing else to do, this is going to be a good show for you. Or if your Thanksgiving dinner is over and you're home resting, this is good. But if you're having fun with your family and friends, having a great Thanksgiving dinner, then I don't want to get you in trouble with your spouses. Just go get out of here and have fun with your family. But this should be good.
If your football team's losing and you can't take it anymore, we're offering you an escape from the madness.
Yeah. So I got a couple announcements real quick. Nothing real big. Nancy and I went to the Southern California Poultry Show. Now, I know Nancy's going to talk a lot about it when she comes on next week, so I don't want to say too much. But it was a great show. We really had a good time. Had a chance to meet Mike Sayers and Jeff Hallback, the judges. Matter of fact, I talked with them both. Matter of fact, I talked with Mike quite a bit. And so we're going to get together. He's going to come on my show. I'm going to come on his show. Plan on getting together sometime in January. Should be really fun. They have a great show. It's called the Talking Chickens with the M&M Exhibition Poultry. If you're into showing birds, exhibiting your birds, that kind of thing, it's a really good show. It'll get you excited about getting together, getting your birds together, joining the show. But yeah, they have. I enjoy the show. So
I'm crashing the party. I'm cooking.
Yeah, you're cooking all right. So go get out here and go cook. So I gotta remember what I was saying.
You're collabing.
Yeah. How come I could hear something going on out there? I wasn't sure what was going on. Now I think she was getting the guts to come in and start trouble or whatever. I had a chance to talk with the representative for Neutrina. Him and I had a long talk. Matter of fact, I really like what he had to say. So he's planning on coming on, maybe even doing a number of episodes talking about nutrition. Brian, I really like what he had to say because right now the chicken world and the game fowl world really only has one representative for feed. And a lot of times I don't agree with what they say. You know what I mean? But him and I got together and we were talking and I was getting a feel for what he has to teach or what he has to say and what he has to offer. And I was like, wow, we're on the same page. This is going to be really good. And then we talked about sponsorship. So the sponsorship's in the air. There's things we have to do to make that happen. We'll see what happens. I told him the sponsorship isn't as important to me as getting together with him to teach people the proper nutrition of your fowl.
Yeah, right.
Because that's more important to me. Making money on advertisement, it would be a bonus, but it wouldn't be something I'd be like excited about because anytime I put an advertisement on the show, that means that's something that's going to take away from the experience of the actual show. Yeah. But I do believe in the products. I use their feeds, believe in them. I'm promoting them, whether or not they're sponsoring me or not. I'm promoting them all the time. I told them that. So if we work something out, great. Then I got together with my friend Tony Gutierrez from Cruise Feeds. I've known Tony for a long time. I actually don't use their feed, but Tony's a really good guy. So him and I sat down for quite a long time and talked feeds and feeding and nutrition and how the company's going. That was kind of fun. What else I want to say real quick? Got a chance to meet. I don't know, Flemmy for some reason. Sorry about that.
Time of year.
Yeah,
I am too. This is the sniffle episode.
Yeah. So I want to thank all my members that were at the show who came and talked with me. That was fun getting to know my members. They let me know how much they love the website and the Breeders' Academy and the Founders Program. So I had a good time doing that. Met with some of my old friends, Jack Dodd, one of my mentors, actually. That was a really fun time hanging out with him at the show. And then I had a conversation with Jesse from the APG. He's the president of the APG, Jesse Ortega. We talked a little bit of biz there. That was good. It was a great turnout. I know Jim Anderson, who ran the show, was really happy. He kept tapping me on the show. Can you believe this? Look at the cars in the parking lot. We've got so many people here. He goes, look at how big this thing is. So it sounded like they had a really good turnout, and he was really excited. So that was good. Monday, Peter Brown's coming on. We're going to talk about vitamins. He sent me the outline today. I looked it over. Looks really good. I can't wait to do it. And right now, the doors are open. The registration page is open for the Black Friday sale. So if you're thinking about joining the Breeders' Academy, this is a good time to run right over there and sign up. We have some great pricing for the annual plan, and we're even discounting the quarterly plan. So if you're thinking about joining the Breeders' Academy, this is a good time to do it because you're going to save a lot of money. And I promise you, you're going to love the website. Okay. And that it starts today. It was going to start tomorrow, but I decided to go ahead and start today because we're doing this. And then it ends on December 1st. So it's a limited time offer. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up. Okay. Hold on a second. I got to clear my throat. Sorry about that.
Nope, no problem.
So this show is about, who knows? What do you think, Brian?
Well, exactly. I mean, we have no schedule, no outline, no plans. We can just talk chickens,
Yeah.
People seem to like that.
Yeah.
When we just talk chickens. So I guess we can just dive in with something. One thing that I think is pretty certain with you and I talking is no matter what subject we start on, we're not going to stay there anyhow. So it kind of
No.
doesn't matter. We'll just sort of move around as it will flow with it as it happens.
You want to start with me and you were talking about
Mhm.
compensation breeding. You want to talk at all about that? The pros and cons?
A little, sure. We
Okay.
can start there.
Okay, let's start there. Because
We'll
I see that a
Yeah.
lot. I'm not a favorite of compensation breeding.
I'm really not either.
Yeah, but a lot of people tend to want to teach it. I don't know how
Mhm.
much they actually use it themselves because, like I was telling Brian, a lot of the things that they're putting together, like this bird it has an extreme of this trait, or this bird is lacking that trait, or they have different extremes of both of them, or they're both lacking, but they think by putting them together, they get the intermediate trait. Brian, a lot of times those traits are separate genes completely. They're separate traits.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there are some instances where compensation breeding can work. I'll just give an example. Let's say I have a line of silver phoenix, and I have a rooster. These are all related, and I have a rooster that has a really nice tight comb, and yet most of my birds in that line have larger combs, and some of the hens have big combs, but all of my hens that I've saved have oversized combs, and I've got this one rooster with a small comb. So I could put him over them and then select for his comb type in future generations. So that is a point where it could work because you're dealing with, they're all related. Some of the hens may carry the alternate alleles as recessives that he's got that are expressing, or he may have a dominant that they don't have that he would introduce, and you could select for that. But that's not how most people use it and how most people teach it or work with it. So I wanted to present where something like that can work. But what most people do is every generation they quote unquote match faults.
Yeah,
To strengths.
and they
So
think one bird's going to bring the other one
Yeah.
up. What actually happens is the lower bird brings the other one down. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can do it like that, like the example I gave. You could do that one generation because maybe you don't have anything else. Maybe that one bird's the only thing you've got with a small comb you like better. I mean, and that's just breeding. So that's not really compensation breeding. It is in that generation because you're going to try to compensate the overdone combs of all your hens with this rooster that's got a smaller comb. But it's not that you're going to do that every generation. So someone would hear me say that and they'll go out and say, well, Brian Reeder said that the way to breed is you put a small combed rooster on big combed hens every generation. And
Well, here's the other thing too,
that.
is they look at it, they don't realize that a lot of the traits that they're thinking they're compensating for, or they're by putting one bird with it's lacking it with a bird that has it, thinks that it's going to improve it, but they don't realize that a lot of those traits that they're trying to improve through the compensation mating are polygenic traits, which are selected and bred for, and it takes a lot differently, and it takes a long time to get there. So their improvements, if any, are very subtle, and instead of breeding to one that's lacking it versus breeding to one that has it, you get that variation that we always see when you're talking about multi-gene traits.
And and for one generation, that's fine because then you're interjecting the variability from which you can select later. But just because, let's say you get trapped in a situation where you have to do a compensation mating. In other words, I've called my phoenix wrong for 3 or 4 years, or I've been focused too much on tails and all my hens suddenly have leghorn combs flopped over, on their eye. Yeah. And I've got to fix that. I've got to do something. Well, then you would use that short comb, the smaller combed male if you accidentally had one. But that's a pretty straightforward example. That's just in interjecting the variability to make the right selection in later generations. But you hear all kinds of crazy things. I've heard them my whole life. Like you always want the males that have this, and you always want your females to have this, and that balances it out, and you get the intermediate. Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes, if you've got two dominant genes, or two dominant alleles of the same locus, and you have the heterozygote for each of them, it will look intermediate, but that's not sustainable. Blue is an example of a proper compensation breeding, because if you breed blue to blue, you get splash and black and blue. So most breeders breed blue to black every generation, they get 50-50. But again, because what they want is a heterozygote. So sometimes when they're saying do these compensation breedings, they're talking about two dominant genes, or a dominant gene and recessive, and they want the heterozygote. But that's not sustainable. You can't make that true breeding. But most often it is something like what you're talking about, where it's polygenic, and it's things like you can take any rooster as long as you put him with a hen that came from a mother that laid well. And then all your daughters will lay well. Well, they might that generation, but the next generation, if you inbreed the F1, they're going to start to segregate good breeding and bad breeding, or excuse me, good laying and bad laying, and intermediate, and you're going to have to select. There really aren't any shortcuts to just straight up good selection.
Well,
What it
I
comes
actually
down
think
to.
that they're confusing the correlation of traits with the compensation of traits, where it's how close they are on the loci and whether they're expressed together or not,
Exactly.
So
and
it just shows they don't know what they're talking about, I guess,
Well, exactly. But the other thing too then is when you've got linked genes, you can't do compensation breeding. Let's take, for instance, like spangled Hamburgs. Okay. They are made up of pattern gene, dark brown, and melanotic. Well, that's a linkage group. Okay. So those three genes are linked. So if you get birds that have pattern gene and melanotic, but they don't have dark brown, that's a linkage group. And then if you have birds that have pattern gene and dark brown, but they don't have melanotic, that's a linkage group. So let's say you've got a group of Hamburgs, and some of them are the full PGDB ML, but some are PG plus DB ML, and some are PG ML small DB plus, well, those are all linkage groups. So what you'll hear people say often, I've heard this a lot with people breeding like spangled, genetically spangled, pattern gene spangled birds. They'll say, well, you want to breed your light ones, your overcolored to your undercolored. And what they mean by that is the birds with too much white and too little spangling, or almost no spangling. You want to mate that to the bird that's too dark, where the spangling is way too big and there's way too much of it. Maybe even the breasts are almost black on them. And they say by doing that, you get the intermediate. Well, you can in the F1, because in the F1, even with the linkage, you can have one line of DNA here and one line of DNA here from the other parent, and they'll link up. And so that will make it look in the F1 like a fairly decent spangled, but then it won't recombine, so that you suddenly start getting, like, for instance, if you put together, a combination of genes that make a variety. So let's say all the genes that make buff, there's no linkage between them. So you can cross a buff to a non-buff, and the intermediate F1, you can take them and breed them together, and in a few generations of selection, you can go back to where they're homozygous for all your buff genes. But you can't easily get the crossover. So let's look at another example. Let's say you wanted to make spangling from scratch, and you got dark Cornish and New Hampshires, and you cross them. The F1 will look spangled, but that is going to take a crossover event to get the DB from the New Hampshire to link up with the PGML in a linkage group from the dark Cornish and make a true breeding spangled. And that takes a crossover event. So it's the same kind of thing when people say cross the overcolored to the undercolored spangled. You would have to get a crossover event. So instead of, and they say, oh, well, just do that every generation. Just cross your dark to your light and you'll get the right spangled. Well, you'll get some heterozygotes that look right, but you're not going to be able to get those to true breeding. The key to getting that line then to true breeding for the color pattern is that you breed the ones with the correct spangling to the ones with the correct spangling. And then you can get it link up to where you get a line of DNA from this parent and the line of DNA from this parent, the chromosome and the chromosome, they both have PGDB-EML linked already. And then you get that homozygous, and then they breed true. But trying to put it together from scratch is really difficult because the linkage is moderately tight with those 3 genes. So
And
that's
then
an example. Yeah.
And then breeding unrelated birds even complicates things even more. So, which is what
Mhm.
they're usually doing. So,
Yeah, exactly. And then it's hard to make from scratch. But while we're on this subject, let me give people a little hint about something. If you look historically at all of our laced color varieties that existed in the historic past, so like Seabrights and Polish, if you look at old woodblock prints of them from the early 1800s or the late 1700s or even up into the mid to late 1800s, they don't even call them laced, they call them spangled. They were spangled because there was no Colombian in the Western world. The Colombian gene came from Asia with the Chittagongs and Cochin Chinas in the 1840s and 50s. And it's only after that that we start to see spangled varieties become laced varieties. And then the laced Wyandottes were made later. So here's a little secret I'm going to give away. All of your laced birds, people say, well, lacing is Colombian, pattern gene, and melanotic. And it is. But they almost always all have ginger dark brown as well, which means that if you take the CO off, you have the linkage group of PGDBML. And if you want to make spangled, instead of putting a New Hampshire over a dark Cornish, you put the New Hampshire over a golden laced Wyandotte, or you put the dark Cornish over a golden laced Wyandotte. And you, in the later generations, you just breed out the Colombian, which is not linked. And then you'll end up with spangled birds.
okay. Talking about spangled, is it normal for chicks of red fowl to have their first feathers look spangled?
It is, yeah. Yeah, they show the definitive bar through. Yeah, a lot of times you'll see that. It's very, very common, and you see that even in some silvers, and it's just not as obvious in them. And then you certainly see it on some solid blackbirds as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he asked, maybe mottled. Not sure the difference.
Right. It's not. It looks like it, but it's not. I mean, it may be the precursor to what modeling, mutated out of. That it's a juvenile pattern that it mutated out of. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it could be. But it's just a juvenile thing. Yeah.
Okay. And then Sue says, is there a certain shape of the spangled is supposed to be teardrop, half circle, etc.? Well, I know like American Games, and there's probably different, shapes
But
of spangled.
she's talking about PGMLDB spangling like in Hamburg. You're talking about spangling as in modeling, which is what it is on games.
Okay.
Your spangled
Maybe
variety
I
is a
think that
mottled
may
bird.
be what Chris is talking about too. When he was asking, where's it at? When he was asking, maybe mottled. Not sure the difference because he raises American Games.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. But no, I think he was just talking about just the regular, like red duckwing, BB red, or things like that on a red fowl, the white early on. But back to Sue's question.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. This is another one that makes me want to pull my hair right on out if I had any. But I guess I could pull my beard. But it's supposed to be whatever it is. And let me explain what I mean by that. The whether it's teardrop or half moon or heart or half circle, whatever the shape is, it's still PGDBML. What's causing the difference in the shape are minor modifier genes. So they're all legitimate. There's not some that are wrong and one that's right. The teardrop shape is really pretty and I love it. And that's what you mainly see in Hamburgs. But it's just, that's the particular set of modifiers that happen to be with that one. It's not that that's the correct one. Now, if you're going strictly by like standards, then that's the correct one. But that's just in the US. You'll have to forgive me. I've got a mustache hair sticking in my nose and driving me crazy all of a sudden. It's just that's the way it is. I mean, for instance, in other standards in other parts of the world, sometimes they're heart shaped, sometimes they're crescent shaped, sometimes it's teardrop shaped. It depends on the variety and the breed. But in the U.S., because the first spangled varieties that went into the standard were Hamburg, and they were teardrop shaped, that's what they're going to want in the U.S. standards. But it's they come in both forms, and they're what they are. Now you can see heterozygotes even in the teardrop shape style. Sometimes the heterozygotes will have a half moon shape because they're not homozygous for 2 doses of the PGDB-ML.
Do you know what Sue's talking about here?
Yes and no. I'm not sure exactly. I know what the Tolbun is.
What is it? I don't know what it is.
It is a mess. It's a variety of Polish where they cross Golden Polish with something modeled.
Oh,
It's like
a breed?
it's
Kind of a breed? Wants to be a breed?
it's something. You Google it. Yeah, they have them at Cackle Hatchery, so you can find pictures easy.
Oh,
But they're not spangled, so I don't know why the shape of the spangle would make any difference in their standard. I don't know that T, Sue. I don't know what the dirt is there, so I don't know how to respond to it. But yeah, but it's yeah, typical.
oh, she says it's a variety.
Oh yeah, I know it's a variety. It's a variety of the Polish. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a color variety of the Polish.
Okay, so Sonny's saying I got to read them, Brian, because this turns out to be a podcast too.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
okay,
Go ahead.
Brian and Kenny, should I treat most diseases in similar ways? Heritable, vertical, or parallel, and kill any birds that lack natural immunity or are not extremely resistant? I don't medicate.
Mm-hmm. Well,
all diseases are different. Some are vertical, some are
yeah, exactly.
horizontal, some are heritable. I don't know what the parallel thing is, but
well, it just honestly, I mean, it doesn't matter how it's passing. All that matters in your selection is that you're selecting for as much immunity as you can.
so you breed for the ones that never got sick, right?
That's right. That's the preference. If you have any options, you always breed from the birds that never showed any sickness. And here's the thing, I could get way more technical with this and give you a whole bunch of scientific jargon. And I don't like to do that because I find that is useless to most people. What I prefer to do is tell you like I would want to tell my great-great-grandparents, people who lived before Darwin and before Mendel. And what I would tell them is kill the sick, breed from the hardy, don't baby them, don't medicate them, don't do nothing, throw out the bad, keep the good, cross your fingers. That's
open the doors, open the windows, let all the wild birds in and expose them to the disease and kill the sick ones, right?
Just like Jeffrey said in chicken diseases. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the practical, non-scientific version of how you do that. Now I could go into a whole lot of stuff about the major histocompatibility complex and the genes and the chromosomes and blah blah blah, but I find for most breeders that's all useless. What works is just here's what you do.
We did an episode, I think it was last week, on disease resistance, and
you're
right. I can get into the complicated side of it, but most people won't even know what that means or what to do with it.
Right.
All they really need to do is what we talked about: kill the sick, breed to the ones that never.
Well, that was one of the reasons, that I did all the research I did was not so that I could publish papers for other scientists to read, but so I could then turn around and convert that into really common, plain, simple language that anyone could apply, and they didn't then have to become scientists and search literature.
Exactly, and that's what I tell people too. And if you've seen my work, is I simplify everything. That's why people were able to follow me. And if you look at all the material on the website, I guess you could say I go and I'm pretty scientific and I can get pretty detailed. And for some people, it can still seem complicated, but I simplify it pretty much. I make it so it's practical and usable. I don't really talk much about the stuff you can't use. And that's what I like about Brian. That's why I'm working with Brian, because he does simplify it that way. He takes something that's very complicated, very scientific, and puts it in terms that you can understand it and use it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working with Brian because that's how I operate, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that was always important to me. That was the goal all along, was to make it to where I could translate it to the hobby, because I enjoy talking to other scientists. It's a thrill. I love it. But the way we talk to each other
yeah,
is we're in our own world. It's our own language, and it's not going to be understandable to most people, and even more so, it's not going to be applicable.
that's
They're not going to
exactly
know how
right.
to use it.
Yeah,
And what
has to
I
be
was
usable and
always wanting to
practical.
do was to bring it to people who didn't want to do the research, but wanted to use the advantages of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me flag a couple of these things here. I'm doing a
Hmm.
terrible job here. Just bear with me, guys, because
That's
usually
okay.
Nancy does this for me. I
Yeah,
think this is a flag.
we're winging it.
Okay. So Laura's saying, side note, can sex-linked pheomelanin red or autosomal pheomelanin in our case divert selection in the wrong direction if you're selecting for dark mahogany? Can we,
Well, I don't know exactly what she means by divert selection in the wrong direction.
that's
I
what I was wondering too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, selecting for dark mahogany is just going to make them darker mahogany. It's going to make the red darker. Um, so I don't know that it would change anything else. But if that's all you're focused on, you could accidentally pick the inferior birds because they happen to have the mahogany you were looking for. See, that's always one of the drawbacks to focusing too much on an individual trait, is that you ignore other important traits. And when you get one bird that's showing this thing you're after, it's always going to be the worst bird you've ever produced. And everyone's going to get, oh my God, I've got to keep it. When if you finally produced it, it means it's in your lines, and you could not keep the one that's showing it and reproduce it on a better bird. But I don't know that that's what she's actually talking about.
Okay. I'm still squandering with the type of red in a true brown breasted red, brown red. Do then hens come light brown birchen with mahogany in the heads?
Well, they can. Absolutely. And the squandering with the type of red, and okay, so you're wondering which type of red should be in the brown-breasted brown reds. So those are the ones I'm assuming that it's either the dun mutation that's making the brown breast, or it's the ones that have the heavier lacing. I'm not sure which he's referring
My
to.
question is he actually talking about the brown breasted brown reds or black breasted black red? Because a lot of people get those two mixed up, and he
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
giving you the wrong information. So
Well, yeah, and
that'd be my question.
the brown red, of course, would be birchen, if on the ER birchen allele, if it's the correct thing, and they always have the breast lace, or should. The black red is on extended black and is basically should have a solid black breast. So the brown breast, what I have seen called brown breasted brown reds, is a brown red with the dun mutation, which turns the black portions brown. But that may not be what he's talking about, because with the colloquial terminology, it's hard to know
Yeah.
sometimes. Um,
It's like you said, if we can't start talking and using the same terms, we're not going to be able to communicate properly, and we're not going to be able to teach them properly because, and
yeah,
I'm
it's
not
harder.
saying Kiku's
No,
doing that,
right?
but
No,
some
no.
people are, and it makes it really tough to teach them properly when they're not really dealing with the proper names or the
Hmm.
proper varieties of the bird, and they want to keep saying hatch, kelso, sweater. Then we
Right.
can't get anywhere that way, you
Yeah.
know?
But if he's referring to the dun mutation, do hens come light brown birchen with mahogany in the heads? Yes, that's usually the way you'll see them if they've got the mahogany. If not, they'll come the light brown birchen with just the orange head if they don't have the mahogany. So it just depends on whether you're selecting for or against mahogany. Yeah,
Yep.
if it's on the dun mutation, it may not be. Um, but I'm not. See, I have seen things in the US called a brown-breasted brown red. And what
Oh, yeah.
those happen to be here, like for instance, Cackle Hatchery has some listed that are the brown-breasted brown red. And those are done on red birchen, on brown red. And so that's all I know it is a reference to. I don't know what it may be referred to in other circles.
Well, I've seen some brown reds. I just don't see very many of them. They're very uncommon. But they'll call anything with black and red a brown red.
Well,
I'm not even sure where that started, but it's been going on for as long as I can remember, you know?
Yeah. It has for me too, is and most people can't tell birch and extended black apart unless even when it's melanized, they can't tell it apart.
Yeah. Okay, Laura's saying, can sex-linked pheomelanin red... Wait, did I already do that one?
I think she's given us more information.
Okay. Can sex-linked pheomelanin red divert selection in the wrong direction if selecting for dark mahogany, since sex-linked pheomelanin suppresses pheomelanin mahogany? Does that make sense?
Well, sex-linked pheomelanin doesn't suppress pheomelanin, autosomal pheomelanin in mahogany, because they occur in different areas of the bird. You have to get extreme saturation of the mahogany. Well, and the thing of it is, here's the other problem. People talk about mahogany as if it's a single thing, and there's at least 3 or 4 different versions of mahogany. So that makes it much more difficult. There's the kind of mahogany you see in show-type Rhode Island Reds, which actually uses recessive melanizers in combination with 2 or 3 of the versions of mahogany to get that extreme dark coloring. There's the mahogany we see on the jungle fowl, which is the wild form of it. And then there are mutated forms of mahogany that are even darker that we see in the hobby. And some of those mutated forms can go into the hackle more fully. I think what she may be referring to is where there is sex-linked pheomelanin and you have dilute, that does sort of keep the mahogany from fully saturating into those areas.
Okay. Let's see. Is test hatching the only way to determine who has natural immunity? By hatching parent birds that appear asymptomatic. I can't talk all of a sudden. Asymptomatic birds can be carriers at homestead level without lab testing.
Yeah.
We test mate everything. But yeah, every mating's a test mating, you know.
That's the thing is, you've just got to test mate them and see without the lab testing. But here's the thing: asymptomatic birds will still be carriers. You know, if your flock had a disease and you picked the ones that didn't get sick, they are still carriers. And so every generation, well, let me say this real quick, and then you can interject too. Every generation that you bred, okay, in my research, every generation that I bred from those individuals that never got sick and showed full immunity, I did not produce 100% resistant chicks. It took 5 or 6 or 8 generations, depending on the line, to begin to get up to 80 or 90%. In the first generation, when I would cross a resistant bird from, with another resistant bird and they were unrelated, I was getting maybe 10% resistance in their offspring. So yes, it was test mating all the way. And then each generation you had to pick again the ones that didn't get sick. And what would happen then by breeding them together every generation, the ones that never got sick when all their siblings got sick, I would see more, and it was incremental, and it increased by about 10% every generation until by the time the mink wiped me out, I was up at about 90-95%. But I'd still see a few that would show it, which indicates, of course, that it's polygenic. There's a major gene and then there's minor genes.
Yeah. I was going to say the only way I would breed to a carrier is if that's all I have, and then just work my way around, away from it as I go.
I did that quite a bit. You may not have an option to not breed from a carrier. Just like you said, there may be no option to it. And I mean, there are going to be instances where there is not a single bird of a breed in the entire country that does not have X, Y, or Z, Yeah.
Kiku's saying that, agreed, Kenny and Brian. Also, I meant to the true brown red hen, not the black breasted type. So
Exactly.
That's
So he's talking about the difference between the extended black and the true birchen. And with the true brown red hen, she'll have the pheomelanic lacing in the breast, and she will have the lighter colored hackle. And if she has mahogany, it'll show up on the top of the head. If she doesn't have mahogany, it won't show up as much.
I think this is a compliment, Sue, right? Listening to Brian, I can understand why he and Kenny talk for hours.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Laura's saying I get red, orange, and dark brown on my birds, and I'm wondering if bright red is bad news.
It shouldn't be. Okay, what you're seeing there. Okay, now I'm not 100% certain what you mean by dark brown, but I'm assuming that you mean that as the full mahogany saturation. So red, orange, and brown. Okay, what you're looking at then, red is the S plus gold red S allele without dilution. Orange is the S plus S allele with dilution. Dark brown, if you mean that by mahogany, then is when you have the full mahogany saturation on the red without dilution. So I don't see bright red as bad news. It just depends on what you want, or what the standard calls for.
Okay, I tried to find. We have so many comments here and questions
Uh-huh.
that I don't remember what he said. I don't know if you do too, but he said, "Or
Yeah.
would the black be dominant?" So I'm a little lost on what that is.
He is the one that asked us about the what did he ask about? The white showing up on the chick feathers that would look like modeling, and then they would have the black bar.
Okay.
And he was asking if that was just an expression of chick coloring, or if it was modeling. Black, it depends on what black you're talking about. There's the melanizers, and there's a dominant one called melanotic, and then the other ones are the recessive black complex, and they're recessives. They are sex expressed, which means they're dominant in hens and recessive in males. But then when the E alleles are taken into account, birchen and extended black are dominant to the duckwing E alleles, duckwing, wheaten, and brown. So black is dominant in that regard, but solid black isn't a single gene. Solid black is one of those two E alleles, birchen or extended black, plus two or more melanizers, melanotic and some others.
Okay. So Sue's saying definitely.
Yeah.
I can't talk. Definitely a compliment. Yeah, I knew it was. I was just giving you a hard
Thanks,
time.
Sue.
Okay. So Sonny's saying, how can you tell the difference between progressive white and barred or splash birds? They naturally contain a lot of white, particularly in their tail feathers.
Okay, the key for either one. Okay, well, a barred should not have any white in its tail feathers. If they have any, now I know they have black, gray and white, black, grayish black and white bars, but if there's any white other than those bars at the base of the tail feathers, it's progressive whitening. On splash birds, it's much harder to tell, but here's the key: breed the splash bird to the blackbirds that come out of your blue breeding, and if some of them grow out white in the base of the tails, then your splash birds are carrying progressive whitening. It's, again, everything's test mating.
Okay, I'm jumping all over the place because I got so many
Yeah.
here trying to find some of these questions because he keeps telling me that.
That's Christopher's question about.
Yeah, that was the actual question
about the modeling. Yeah,
Okay.
This was the second question. His first was about the white on the ends of the feathers on the chicks, on the red chicks. And he said it may be modeling. And it's not modeling. It's just part of they just do that as they mature. It's part of their maturation feathering, or part of their chick feathering. And you always see that, especially and I'm assuming he's talking about red duck wings. But black is dominant, but a solid black chicken is not a single gene. So it depends on what you mean by black as to when and how it's dominant, or whether it is. So the recessive black genes are not fully dominant.
I hear a lot of people saying, I have this family of birds. They claim they're pure. I kind of doubt it. I'm sure they do that idea, this 1/16th infusion method, where every 5 years they're adding new blood to refresh the blood.
Yeah.
But they're always saying that my yellow leg side does this, my white legged side does this. And a lot of times, if they're the same family, they're sex-linked genes, and they don't really understand how sex linkage works. You want to break a little bit of, I mean, I want to do a whole show on that someday,
Yeah.
but can you break down sex linkage for people, get them
Yeah,
up
sex
to speed?
linkage means that the gene in question falls on the sex chromosome, and females have one sex chromosome and males have two. So it's X. I don't remember how it is in chickens. I'm gonna quote you mammals. If I'm not,
ZW.
yeah, the Z chromosome. That's right.
Yeah.
I started doing X's. I was about to do mammals, X's and Y's. Yeah, it's Z or ZZ. And the female has one dose and the males have two doses. So the males can be heterozygous for sex-linked genes, but the females always express it if she's got it. So let's do the example of dermal melanin.
Wait. Brian, you're going in and out.
Oh,
hold on a second. You're pixelating really bad. Hold on a second. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I look normal on my side.
Yeah, no, unless it's me. Who is it, guys? Because I can't hear him that well. He kind of went out, but let's see if it comes back. And then
okay.
Start back over where you were saying Rooster has two Z's. Female has a ZW. You're almost back. There you go. Let's start there.
Yeah, the female has one Z and the male has two Z's. So the male can be heterozygous for a sex-linked gene, while the female will only have the one dose. So if she has the sex-linked gene, it expresses on her. And a good example of that would be dermal melanin. So that dermal melanin is what makes either slate or willow legs. So whether you're talking about willow or jade or green or whatever particular shade they occur, the shade is because of the concentration of melanin and how much the particular concentration of yellow pigment under the dermal melanin. The same in slate, where you've got slate or blue or dark slate. That depends on the particular modifiers that are affecting how much dermal melanin is being laid down. But if you've got any version of a green leg or you've got any version of a slate leg, whether it's the lightest versions or the darkest versions, that means they have dermal melanin. And that is a sex-linked allele. So dermal melanin is the recessive, whereas absence of dermal melanin, the inhibitor of dermal melanin, the gene capital I, is the dominant. So you can look at it one of two ways. If you take a yellow or white-legged rooster over a slate or willow-legged hen, you're going to get all the F1 chicks with white or yellow legs, depending on what's going on with the white or yellow allele, because that's separate from the dermal melanin. But all of your sons are going to carry one dose of dermal melanin. You just can't see it, although they might have a little bit of dark shading on the toenails. Sometimes they'll have like a little dusky edge. Doesn't make any difference.
No, it doesn't. I was going to say that a lot of people see the game fowl breeders think they're different from domestic chickens, and domestic chicken people think they're different than game fowl.
Nope.
Genes are genes, traits are traits, chickens are chickens. We might select for different traits, but the breeding process is still the same and the genetics are still the same.
Yeah, it's all exactly the same. Now, they've been selected for different things, but that doesn't change the nature of genes like skin color or leg color or things like that. This all works exactly the same way.
I mean, if we're talking about domestic chickens, form and function traits may mean some things, but they're selected the same way. Same thing with game fowl. If you're looking at certain form and function traits, which you guys know what I'm talking about, it's the same thing. We're selecting different traits, but you're selecting them and improving them and breeding for them for the same way. So it's the
farm birds and the game fowl are just selected for opposite ends of the same spectrum. But it's still within the same spectrum. It's just opposite ends. What the farm people want will be the opposite end of the spectrum from what the game fowl people will want.
Yep. So,
but it's polygenic and it's spectrum selection. But anyhow, back to the sex linkage. A white or yellow-legged male over a slate or willow-legged hen will make 100% of the offspring with white or yellow legs. Now, I'm just talking about dermal melanin. I'm not talking about the yellow and white skin genes, because those are separate. So there's two different genes going on here. There's the dermal melanin allele, I or small I, and then there is the yellow or white, small y or large y. And yellow is recessive, it's small y. White is capital Y, and it's the dominant. So white or yellow-legged rooster over slate or willow-legged hen makes 100% white or yellow-legged offspring, and all of the sons carry one dose of the dermal melanin. And so that means any of those F1 sons, 50% of their daughters will have slate or willow legs. Okay? On the reciprocal cross, if you take a slate or willow-legged rooster over a white or yellow-legged hen, all of his daughters will be slate or willow-legged, and all of the sons will be yellow or white. And again, all of the sons will carry one dose of slate, one dose of dermal melanin. And then can throw daughters, 50% of the daughters with the dermal melanin, 50% without. And their sons then will depend on what hen you mate them to. But the hens, if they have dermal melanin, then that's what they're going to throw to their sons. If they don't have dermal melanin, that's what they're going to throw to their sons, because the hen only has the one dose.
Let's talk about in terms of feather color, like silver to red, because that's what a lot of these guys are going to be thinking.
Yeah, well, it works exactly the same way. Silver rooster to red hen creates all silver daughters and all split males that are one dose of silver and one dose of S plus red. Okay. The reciprocal cross, which is the classic sex link cross of the industry, is red male to silver hen that produces 100% red daughters and 100% split males that are one dose of capital S, one dose of small s plus. Now, where silver is marginally dominant to red, that means the males are going to come out, and especially if you've got Colombian present, and are going to be basically silvers with yellowy hackles and saddles and maybe even dark red shoulders, depending on whether the red had mahogany or not. So like that classic sex link where the hen is red with a white, red with a black tail or red with a white tail, and the rooster comes out and it's basically a white body with a yellowish hackle and saddle and a red shoulder and a black or white tail. That's the classic example. Now, of course, that's because that's a cross between a Rhode Island red and a Delaware, or Rhode Island red and a Colombian rock or something like that. So there's some additive genes going on in that example, but but let's just say you're doing game fowl, a BB red to a silver duckwing. Okay. BB red rooster over silver duckwing hen makes BB red hens and golden duckwing roosters because they're split. Whereas the reciprocal cross, Thanksgiving, the turkey was returning. The silver rooster over the red hen is going to make all silver duckwing daughters. And again, the roosters are going to be golden duckwing. They're going to be the split between the two. Now, there can be true breeding lines of golden duckwing. You can make it on silver and you can make it with red. Silver is the golden duckwing on homozygous silver is silver with autosomal pheomelanin, where the golden duckwing on red is red with dilution and or cream. Okay, which is another diluter.
Now, I know that all sounds complicated for some, but just listen to that one over and over and over again. Even write it down on paper, just kind of lay it out as he's talking. It's simpler than it sounds.
It is.
Because once you lay it out on paper and you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. That way you're going to be able to predict your breedings. When you put two birds together, you kind of know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
It's all about selecting for the phenotype. You might get some variation because you don't really know what's in the genotype yet, but that's where some of the improvement comes from. And then you just select the ones that don't meet your criteria, select for the ones that do, and you move the strain forward a little at a time.
Now, one of the things to always keep in mind on those F1 split roosters that are capital S, small s plus, that look like golden duckwing, but sometimes they'll look like a brassy silver duckwing. Sometimes they'll look like a gold. sometimes they'll have red in the shoulder because of mahogany. Sometimes they won't. Is that the split then can produce both silver and red daughters, the split rooster. But whichever daughter he produces, if they're silver daughters, then they're silver. They might have autosomal pheomelanin and mahogany, so they might not be clean silvers, but they have the 1 dose of silver. So they're silvers. They're not going to throw red daughters. They're not going to throw reds. I mean, they could throw red daughters, but they're not going to pass a red gene. They're not going to pass an S+ S allele gene because they're capital S at the S allele. The red daughters, then they are small s+. They are red. Although all kinds of things then can go wonky because your silvers, if they're clean silvers, have the inhibitor of autosomal pheomelanin. So you see light red lines that have the inhibitor of autosomal pheomelanin, and that probably got into those light reds because they've been crossed with silvers a lot and ended up homozygous for the inhibitor. You see dark reds, crossing dark reds and silvers give you different effects than crossing light reds and silvers, because the dark reds will have autosomal pheomelanin and don't have the inhibitor. They will mess up your silvers. But if you have light reds that are homozygous for the inhibitor of autosomal pheomelanin, you can cross, and they don't have mahogany, or it's very suppressed, you can cross those into your silvers and they won't mess up your silver line. So these are all, you have to figure out what's actually there. It's not it's easier said than done, but you can eventually figure it out. And on that note, I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but I did want to mention my series starts December the 5th, where we cover all the genes in my color book on my YouTube channel. And the reason I bring this up now is because we're going to look at all these different combinations with pictures. So I've actually got pictures of what some red varieties with the inhibitor of autosomal pheomelanin look like. So that way, and then what they look like, what reds look like when they have autosomal pheomelanin. I go over that in both duckwing and wheaten and in birchen. I cover all of those. So that's something to watch for, because that'll then, where I'm going to be presenting images, that's going to help you to kind of get a visual understanding of this. It's harder when you're just listening to the words. I presented the books as just words with no pictures because I really wanted you to think and not just give it all to you. I wanted people to actually go out and look at pictures and look at birds and think about this. But now, 20 years on, next year in 2006 or 2026 will be 20 years that book's been out. And the technology is now at the point where it's foolproof. So that means even I can do this. And
did you notice that the
time.
videos that you and I did before, some of them I actually was able to get some pictures in there to illustrate what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And some of the other ones, I haven't done it yet, but I am going to go back in and add pictures to those too, because we've done so much footage,
Yeah.
It's over 40 hours, and after tonight, we'll probably be up to 50 hours. So
yeah, exactly. And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that after this, Brian and I after this live, Brian and I are actually going to go on and do some more behind the scenes, and that'll be available for my members. So,
yep. And then there'll also be some videos for my channel come out of that as well.
Yeah.
We're going to record some different things and chop it up. We're collaborating.
We're doing our marathon again. I think.
Exactly. So the other thing I was going to say is part 2 of my interview with you and Nancy goes up tomorrow. That goes up on my YouTube channel tomorrow. So that's the Art of Breeding with Brian Reeder at YouTube. So if anyone wants to check that out, that got the first part got a good reception, and I think you'll enjoy the second part. But starting December the 5th, we dive into the color book. Technically, we've already started. The video that just posted last Friday was a introductory review of the book, and now we'll start tearing it apart subject by subject. So that'll all be in there for people who want to kind of get a visual on what I'm talking about with some of these things.
Okay, so I guess we'll end this one, this live, and Brian and I will take a quick break, and then we'll start recording some more. So my members, look out for those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry I didn't get to all the questions. Man, Brian, there were so many of them.
Yeah.
So
We're going to have to come in and just do a marathon session and try to get to people's questions someday.
Yeah, I really needed Nancy to do it. I kind of miss her. Yeah, it would have been a lot easier, and I could have been more part of the conversation because I had some follow-up questions or actually some comments to make too. And I was so busy looking at the questions. I was like, oh, I'm out of this. So,
well, we're flying by the seat of our pants. today. So,
and you saw her; she's cooking. So,
yeah.
did she do that for everybody or just you? I think she did that for everybody, didn't she?
So, yeah,
Okay.
she came on. Yeah, right when we'd started.
Okay. So thank you guys. I know you guys weren't expecting this. We got actually a pretty good turnout. I was really surprised because I told Brian we're not only competing with Thanksgiving, but we're competing with the football game, I'm sure. Yeah, I think it was today, Thursday. So we'll be back on Monday with Peter Brown. So I want to thank you, Brian. What's that? Okay. I want to thank you, Brian. So this will be a great show, and we'll see you guys all later. You want to say anything before we go?
No, just enjoy. Okay. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay. See you guys later.
Bye.